Welcome to the Timeless Dominion podcast series. Today's episode, Alexander the Great Conqueror of the Ancient World. This content is for educational purposes only. If there's any mistake, we apologize in advance.
Timeless Dominion podcast.
Let's explore how one man changed the course of history. Today, we're diving deep into the whirlwind life of Alexander the Great. I mean, picture this. It's 334 BC. You've got this young man just 20 years old, Alexander, king of Macedonia.
Barely an adult, really.
Right. And he sets out on this military campaign that would, well, fundamentally reshape the ancient world. His target, the Persian Empire.
The absolute superpower of the day. Colossal.
Exactly. And in, 10 years? An astonishing 10 years, he carves out one of the largest empires ever known, pushes right to the edge of their known world.
It's staggering when you think about it.
And the perception of him, so divided. To the Persians, he was Alexander the Accursed, but in the West, Alexander the Great.
Polar opposites.
So the mission for us today, our deep dive, is to really get under the skin of this. How did a young king from a kingdom often seen as a bit of a, backwater?
Yeah, looked down upon by the southern Greeks.
How did he achieve such monumental, almost impossible feats? How did he actually do it?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And you really can't understand Alexander without looking back. He didn't just pop out of nowhere.
Right.
His rise is so deeply tied to what came before the exhaustion of the Greek world, and crucially, the strategic groundwork laid by his father.
Okay, set the scene for us. Ancient Greece.
Think about ancient Greece, say, from 500 BC onwards. It was this incredible hotbed of innovation, art, philosophy, and definitely warfare.
Yeah.
You had the big players, Athens.
Naval power, democracy, the Parthenon.
All that. And then you had Sparta, completely different beast, militaristic to the core, famed for its terrifying army.
And these two rivals, they famously teamed up against Persia, didn't they?
They did. That huge Persian invasion in 480 BC. We all know Thermopylae, the 300 Spartans.
Legendary.
Then Salamis, the naval battle where the Greek fleet smashed the Persians, though Athens got burned for it.
The Acropolis. Tragic.
But the following year, at Plataea, the Greeks won decisively on land, forced the Persians out. You'd think that would lead to unity, maybe?
You'd hope. A golden age of working together.
Well, yes and no. There was a golden age for classical Greece, absolutely. But those old tensions between Athens and Sparta just ramped up again. Led to decades of really destructive fighting between the Greek city-states. The Peloponnesian War, it dragged on, exhausted everyone, left them weak, vulnerable.
So that internal fighting kind of paved the way.
Exactly. It inadvertently created a power vacuum, set the stage for something new. And that's where Alexander's father comes in, King Philip II of Macedonia.
Right, Macedonia, seen as sort of rough, barely Greek.
By the sophisticated southerners, yes. But Philip, he transformed it. Built it into a formidable military machine, and his big innovation.
The sarissa.
The sarissa. You have to picture this thing. An 18-foot pike that's twice as long as the standard Greek spear.
18 feet.
Wielded by disciplined infantry in this dense phalanx formation. It wasn't just a longer spear. It was a tactical revolution. Created this almost impenetrable wall of iron spear tips. A mobile fortress, almost.
And it worked.
Oh, it paid off massively. Philip's army became dominant. In 338 BC, Battle of Chersonesus, Philip just crushed the combined forces of Thebes and Athens.
A major turning point.
Huge. He'd already brought most neighbors under control, but this victory let him unite almost all of Greece, created the Hellenic League, the League of Corinth. Everyone joined. Except Sparta, of course.
Sparta always stood apart. So Philip builds this unified Greek force. What was the grand plan?
His ultimate goal was a pan-Hellenic war, all Greeks united against Persia. He saw Persia as this ailing superpower, huge but vulnerable, ripe for the picking.
But he never got to lead it.
No. Right on the verge of launching this massive campaign, he's assassinated by his own bodyguard. Macedonian court politics were notoriously brutal.
And boom, Alexander steps in. He's only 20, but he's not some inexperienced kid, is he?
Not at all. He'd already commanded troops in battle. He'd been tutored by Aristotle himself. He inherits the crown, yes, but also this grand invasion plan. But first...
he needs to make sure he's the one in charge.
And he does it with terrifying speed and ruthlessness. Executes potential rivals at home immediately. Then marches out, crushes rebellions in Illyria, Thessaly, central Greece. Thebes rebels, big mistake. Alexander makes an example of them, raises the city, sells the population into slavery.
That's a clear message.
A terrifying message. Don't mess with Alexander. So he cements his power brutally effectively, and then he turns east towards Persia.
Which brings us back to that question. How did Persia, this huge empire, react? They must have barely registered Macedonia before Philip.
It's a great case study in underestimation, really. So spring 334 BC, Alexander leads his army across the Hellespont into Asia Minor. This is it, the start of one of history's greatest military campaigns.
And his army, what was it like?
Impressive. Not always the biggest, but incredibly well-balanced. Around 40,000 troops from all over Greece. The core, 9,000 Macedonian phalangites.
With the Sarissas.
16 ranks deep. A solid wall of iron spear tips, head-on. Virtually unstoppable, but like you said, those long pikes made it hard to turn quickly, vulnerable on the flanks or rear.
So how'd they cover those weaknesses?
That was the job of the 3,000 elite hypaspists, the shield-bearers. They were more agile, shorter spears, guarded the flanks, linked the phalanx to the cavalry.
Okay.
Then you had about 7,000 allied Greek hoplites, 5,000 mercenaries, armed more traditionally, plus skirmishers, elite Agrianian javelin throwers, Thracians, Illyrians with javelins, slings, bows.
The real mix. And the cavalry.
The jewel in the crown, the companion cavalry. 1,800 elite heavy cavalry, armed with spear and sword. Alexander himself led the royal squadron.
The hammer blow.
Exactly. The hammer to the phalanx anvil. Plus 1,800 Thessalians, 600 other Greeks, 900 light cavalry scouts. It was a flexible, integrated fighting machine. Devastatingly effective.
So Alexander has this weapon. The Persian satraps, the governors in Asia Minor, they meet. What's the plan? And there's this one guy, Memnon of Rhodes.
A very capable Greek general working for the Persians. His advice was smart. Scorched earth.
Burn everything.
Yeah. Burn the crops, retreat inland, deny Alexander's supplies, let the vastness of Asia Minor starve his army. It was pragmatic, probably would have worked.
But the satraps didn't go for it.
Pride.
Seems like it. Unwilling to destroy their own provinces, so they decided, no, we'll fight them head on at the river Granicus.
A fateful decision.
Absolutely. The river itself wasn't deep, but maybe 60 feet wide, steep banks, a decent defensive position. The Persians put their cavalry, about 10,000 from all over, right up front behind the river. Greek mercenaries held in reserve.
And Alexander. He's outnumbered.
Slightly, yeah. About 13,000 infantry, 5,000 cavalry. He puts Parmenion, his trusted general, with cavalry on the left, phalanx in the center. And on the right, Alexander himself, with the companions, hypaspists, archers, the elite strike force.
And Alexander being Alexander, he doesn't wait. Nope. Ignores advice to wait for morning, orders an immediate assault. He personally leads the right wing across the river, sends some companions first, then more cavalry, hypaspists.
Straight into the teeth of the Persian defense.
Exactly. As they scramble up the far bank, it's chaos. Arrows, javelins, fierce cavalry charges. The fighting is incredibly intense, close quarters, horses jammed against horses, men against men.
And Alexander's right in the thick of it.
Almost gets himself killed. A Persian noble is about to strike him down, but Clytus the Black, one of his generals, hacks the guy's arm off just in time.
Wow. Close call.
Very. Eventually, the Macedonian phalanx manages to cross the river, gain a foothold. The Persian cavalry line breaks, they retreat, but those Greek mercenaries fighting for Persia.
What happens to them?
Alexander saw them as traitors to the Panhellenic cause. He refused their surrender. They were surrounded and, well, massacred. A brutal, clear message.
So, a stunning first victory. Granicus opens up Asia Minor. But that's just the start, right? Persia's still enormous.
Absolutely. This is just the beginning. But what Alexander does next shows his strategic thinking goes beyond just winning battles. He understands the whole system of war.
Okay, what's the next move?
Sardis, the regional capital, surrenders without a fight. But Alexander knows the Persian navy is still out there, a potential threat to his supply lines back to Greece.
Right, they could cut him off.
So instead of trying to fight their fleet at sea, which might be risky, he goes after their naval bases on land. Miletus, Halicarnassus.
Smart. Attack their routes.
Exactly. Drain the pond, like you said. Both cities resisted fiercely, Halicarnassus especially, but by winter he'd taken them. Persian naval power in the Aegean is effectively neutralized.
Okay, so coast secured, then inland.
Spring 333 BC, he moves into Lycia and Phrygia, and this is when we get the famous story of the Gordian knot.
Ah, the prophecy. Whoever unties it rules Asia.
And Alexander, faced with this intricate knot, Well, the story goes, he just drew his sword and sliced it in half. Typical Alexander directness.
Gets the job done.
Meanwhile, Memnon, that smart Greek general, he actually launched a naval counterattack in the Aegean, took some islands, Chios, Lesbos. Could have been trouble.
What?
But then he suddenly died of illness, and that threat just evaporated.
Wow, luck playing a part, too. So 18 months in, supply line secure, naval threat gone. Alexander's in Cilicia near modern Turkey-Syria border, ready to march into Syria, and then Darius III shows up.
Yeah, the king of kings himself, with the main Persian army, and he pulls off a clever maneuver, gets behind Alexander's army, cutting his lines of communication back north.
A trap.
Exactly. Darius positions his army on this narrow coastal plain near Issus, only about 6 miles wide, mountains on one side, sea on the other.
Why there?
It forces Alexander to fight, but crucially, it prevents Darius from using his massive numbers effectively. He supposedly had up to 100,000 men, maybe outnumbering Alexander 2-1, but on that narrow field, he can't deploy them all.
Smart positioning by Darius. What units did he have?
His best. The 10,000 immortals, his household troops, his best cavalry were concentrated on his right near the sea, and right in the center, a big block of Greek mercenary hoplites. Reliable, tough infantry.
And Alexander's deployment.
Parmenion again on the left, by the sea, facing that strong Persian cavalry, phalanx in the center. Alexander, as usual, on the right wing, up towards the mountains with his elite strike force, companions, Hypaspes, Agrianes, archers. He even shifted his Thessalian cavalry over to help Parmenion on the left.
So Darius is waiting defensively with superior numbers. What does Alexander do? Sit tight.
Not Alexander. He rides along his lines, fires up his troops, then picks his moment, leads the right wing forward, charges.
Again, just go for it.
The speed, the shock, it just hit the Persian left flank hard, sent them reeling back. But in the center, things weren't going so well for the Macedonians.
The phalanx, what happened?
They struggled to keep formation while advancing, got disordered. And those Greek mercenaries fighting for Darius, they were tough professionals. They actually started pushing the phalanx back slowly but surely.
The invincible phalanx is in trouble. How does Alexander react?
He sees the danger immediately. He rallies his companion cavalry, regroups them, and then, in this absolutely decisive moment, leads them in a headlong charge straight at the Persian center, right where Darius himself was.
Directly at the king.
Directly at the king and his Greek mercenaries. This charge crashes into them, disrupts their lines, allows the Macedonian phalanx to push forward again. Alexander is literally fighting his way towards Darius's chariot. Faced with this apparently mad, fearless Macedonian king coming straight for him, Darius panics. He turns his chariot around and flees the battlefield, abandons his army.
Just like that. Wow, what about the flanks? Parmenion.
Parmenion on the left was having a really tough fight against that elite Persian cavalry. It was touch and go. If they'd broken through, Alexander could have been surrounded. But Parmenion and his troops just held on grimly.
So Darius flees, the center is breaking.
Once word spread that the king had fled, it was over. The Persian army just dissolved into chaos. It turned into a rout, a massacre. Ptolemy, one of the generals who later wrote histories, said so many Persians died, they used the bodies to fill a ravine so the pursuing Macedonians could cross it.
Grim, absolutely decisive. And Darius's family. Captured.
Yes, his mother, wife, children captured in the royal tent. And this is where Alexander does something interesting.
What's that?
He treats them with the utmost respect and courtesy, ensures their safety, their dignity. It wasn't just kindness, it was smart politics. Painting himself as a legitimate, even noble successor, not just a brutal conqueror. It hints at his later efforts to fuse Greek and Persian ways.
So Issus is a massive victory. Darius is on the run. What's next? Does he chase Darius?
Not immediately. He first focuses on securing the western part of the Persian Empire. The Phoenician coastal cities, places like Sidon, Byblos, they mostly submit in 332 DC.
And that takes care of the Persian navy for good.
Pretty much. Without those bases, their Mediterranean fleet is finished. But one city holds out. Tyre.
The island fortress.
Right. And they put up one heck of a fight. A brutal 7-month siege. Alexander had to build this massive causeway, a land bridge, out to the island under constant attack. The Tyrians used fire ships against his siege towers. It was intense.
But he eventually took it.
He did. Breached the walls. And the aftermath was brutal. Most of the men killed, women and children sold into slavery. Gaza also resisted fiercely and suffered a similar fate. Then he marches south into Egypt.
And Egypt. Does he have to fight?
Nope. The Persian governor just hands it over. The whole province, the treasury, everything. No fight at all.
Why so easy?
The Egyptians apparently saw him as a liberator from Persian rule. The priests welcomed him, crowned him pharaoh in Memphis.
The Alexander.
Indeed. And it's here, at the mouth of the Nile, he founds perhaps his most famous city, Alexandria, destined to become a major center of learning and culture.
And then he makes that trip to the desert oracle, Siwa.
Yes, the Oracle of Amun at Siwa. A long, difficult journey into the desert. And according to the stories, the priests there hailed him as the son of Amun, the king of the gods.
Son of a god. That must have had an impact on him.
You have to imagine it did. He's conquering empires, founding cities, being hailed as divine. But while all this is happening, things aren't quiet back in Greece.
Right. Trouble back home.
Yeah, this highlights a constant tension. Even as he's winning these incredible victories, his grip on Greece isn't absolute. Not everyone saw him as a hero. Many Greeks viewed him as a tyrant.
And someone challenged him.
King Aegeus of Sparta. Ever-defiant Sparta. He saw an opportunity, maybe got some Persian funding, and launched a revolt against Macedonian control in 331 BC.
So who dealt with that? Alexander's busy in Egypt.
His regent back in Macedonia, Antipater, he was already dealing with a rebellion up in Thrace, but he quickly marched his army south.
Sparta versus Macedonia. Clash the Titans.
You'd think. But Antipater met Aegeus near Megalopolis, and, while the legendary Spartans were just no match for Macedonian military power, the Spartan army was crushed. King Aegeus died fighting.
So even Sparta couldn't stand up to them.
It proved the point. Macedonian military dominance was now a fact, even over the most feared warriors in Greece.
Okay, so Greece is secured again. Alexander can finally focus on Darius. He's rejected peace offers.
Yeah, Darius apparently offered him a fortune in gold, his daughter's hand in marriage, and basically half the empire, everything west of the Euphrates.
That's an incredible offer.
Most rulers would have jumped at it, but Alexander, maybe it was the victories, maybe Siwa, he was convinced his destiny was bigger. He reportedly said something like, "There cannot be two suns in the sky." He wanted it all.
No compromise.
None. He rejected the offer flat out, told Darius he was coming to take everything, so Darius had no choice. He gathers another massive army, his last stand, on a plain called Gaugamela near modern Mosul in Iraq.
This is it then. The final showdown. Gaugamela. What was the setup?
Gaugamela, 331 BC. This battle is really Alexander's tactical masterpiece. Darius chose the ground carefully, wide, open plains. He even had his engineers flatten parts of it.
Why flatten it?
For his chariots. He had maybe up to 200 scythed chariots designed to cut through infantry ranks. He wanted to maximize his numerical advantage, maybe 50,000 to 80,000 troops, possibly more, drawn from all across the empire. Infantry, cavalry, even some war elephants.
Elephants. First time facing those.
For many of the Greeks, yes, a terrifying prospect. And Alexander. Still heavily outnumbered, maybe 2-1 again.
Same old story. How did he deploy this time?
His classic setup, mostly. Parmenion on the left flank, the phalanx holding the center, Alexander himself on the right with the companions and Hypaspists, his main attacking force. But he added a twist. He put Greek hoplites in a second line, angled back from the flanks.
Why a second line?
As a defense against being surrounded, which was a real risk given Darius's numbers. It showed he was thinking defensively as well as offensively.
Okay, the battle begins. What's Alexander's opening move?
Something really unexpected. He starts leading his right wing, not straight forward, but diagonally outwards, further and further to the right, almost off the prepared battlefield.
Strange move. What was the point?
It was a feint, a cunning trap. The Persians reacted, mirroring his movement, shifting their own troops to the left to try and overlap and flank him. But in doing so,
They stretched their own line, created a gap.
exactly, they weakened their own center. Once Alexander saw that gap opening near Darius's position, he gave the signal. First, he ordered some Greek cavalry to charge forward, fixing the Persian cavalry opposite them. Then Darius unleashed his secret weapon, the scythed chariots.
Here they come. Carnage.
Not quite. Alexander had prepared for this. His light infantry, the Agrianes javelin throwers, targeted the horses and drivers. And crucially, the infantry ranks quickly opened lanes, creating channels for the chariots to pass harmlessly through.
Brilliant counter, so the chariots were neutralized.
Largely, yes. Chaos for them, minimal damage to the Macedonians. And then, with the Persian center weakened and disordered by the chariot attack, Alexander seized the moment. He formed his companions and part of the phalanx into a wedge.
And charge.
And led this headlong charge straight into that gap, aiming directly at Darius again, just like at Aeschylus.
Unbelievable courage. Or madness.
Maybe a bit of both. The shock was immense. The Persian center, already under pressure, just collapsed into panic. And once again, King Darius himself turned and fled the battlefield.
He runs again. What about the rest of the Persian army?
Well, with the center broken and the king fleeing, it quickly turned into a rout. But Parmenion, over on the left flank, was in serious trouble again.
Almost surrounded.
Yes, heavily outnumbered and nearly enveloped. Some Persian and Indian cavalry had actually broken through a gap in the Macedonian line.
Oh no, attack the rear.
They could have, but instead they rode straight for the Macedonian camp looking for loot, which, ironically, might have saved Parmenion.
Oh, great.
Parmenion sent a desperate message to Alexander for help, and Alexander, faced with a choice, pursue the fleeing Darius or save his left wing, made the tough call.
He went back.
He abandoned the pursuit and wheeled his companions around to relieve Parmenion. That part of the battle was apparently the hardest and bloodiest fighting, costing 60 companions their lives, but they stabilized the line.
And the remaining Persians.
Once news of Darius's flight spread everywhere, any remaining resistance collapsed. The last Persian horseman fled. 𝘂𝘴𝘪𝘢 was another stunning and complete victory for Alexander. Masterful tactics, exploiting Darius's predictable reactions, and surprisingly few Macedonian casualties.
So 𝘂𝘴𝘪𝘢 breaks the back of the Persian Empire. Darius is a fugitive. What happens next?
The road to Babylon, the main administrative capital, is wide open. Alexander marches in, and the Persian officials there basically welcome him, recognize him as the new rightful ruler.
No resistance in Babylon.
None. Then he moves on to Susa, another major capital, takes the vast royal treasury. He even sits on the ancient royal throne of Persia, a hugely symbolic moment.
He's basically the king of Asia now.
Yeah.
But there's still resistance.
Yes. As he marches towards Persepolis, the ceremonial heart of the empire, he has to cross the Zagros Mountains. At a narrow pass called the Persian Gates, a small but incredibly brave Persian force holds him up for a month.
A final stand.
A truly heroic one. But Alexander eventually found a way around through the mountains, thanks to local guides, attacked them from the rear, and wiped them out. Then, early 330 BC, he reaches Persepolis.
The jewel of the empire. And this is where he does something controversial.
Very. He allows his troops to loot the city, and then he orders the magnificent royal palace complex to be burned to the ground.
Why? He's trying to be the legitimate king. Why destroy such a symbol?
The stated reason was retribution. Revenge for the Persian invasion of Greece 150 years earlier, specifically the burning of the temples on the Athenian Acropolis in 480 BC.
Payback.
A very brutal symbolic payback. Maybe also a way to satisfy the anti-Persian sentiment among his Greek troops. After that, he resumes the hunt for Darius.
Where had Darius gone?
Fled north to Ecbatana, another old capital. Alexander pursued him relentlessly. Darius then fled east, trying desperately to raise a new army in the eastern provinces like Bactria.
Does Alexander catch him?
No. Just as Alexander was closing in, Darius was betrayed and murdered by one of his own satraps, Bessus, the governor of Bactria. Bessus then declared himself the new king.
So Alexander finally wins, but his rival is killed by someone else.
Right. And again, Alexander does something unexpected. He finds Darius's body, treats it with respect, and orders it sent back to Persepolis to be buried with full honors in the royal tombs alongside his ancestors.
Showing respect for the previous dynasty.
Yeah.
So the Achaemenid Empire is finished. Alexander has conquered it. But now comes the hard part, right? Actually ruling this enormous, diverse territory.
Exactly. And this is where you really see Alexander start to change. The pressures of governing this vast space, the constant campaigning, the distance from home, it all starts to take a toll. And it leads to some darker moments.
How does he start organizing things?
Well, he pauses the campaigning for a bit. Appoints governors, viceroys. Interestingly, he keeps quite a few loyal Persians in positions of power. He's not just replacing everyone with Macedonians. It shows that idea of fusion is already there.
But he can't sit still for long. What's the next military goal?
Two things. Hunt down Bessus, the usurper who killed Darius, and subjugate the remaining eastern provinces, places like Bactria and Sogdia, modern Afghanistan and Central Asia. Plus, he still seems driven by this desire to reach the far edge of the world.
So eastwards again.
Into area, modern Afghanistan, in 330 BC. The Persian governor there, Satybarzanes, initially submitted but then revolted. Alexander crushes the revolt, Satybarzanes is killed, and Alexander founds another city, Alexandria Ariana, modern Herat, one of about a dozen Alexandrias he'd establish.
Planting Greek cities across Asia. And then comes a really grim episode, the Philotas affair.
Yes. At Phrida later that year, a plot against Alexander's life is supposedly uncovered. Philotas, the commander of the companion cavalry, son of Parmenion.
His top general. Both incredibly important figures.
Hugely important. Crucial to his victories, Philotas is accused maybe of knowing about the plot and not reporting it. He confesses under torture. Whether it was true or not, who knows? Alexander has him executed.
And his father, Parmenion.
This is the truly shocking part. Parmenion is hundreds of miles away in Ecbatana, completely unaware. Alexander sends assassins back to kill him immediately before he can even hear about his son's death and potentially react.
Ruthless. Paranoia setting in.
It really seems like it. The offense pressure, the isolation. Maybe he felt he couldn't trust anyone, not even his most loyal veterans. It sent shockwaves through the army.
But he keeps pushing east.
Relentlessly. Pursuing Bessus, founds Alexandria Arachosia, modern Kandahar, in 329 BC. Bessus keeps retreating. Eventually, Bessus's own followers betray him, hand him over to Alexander in chains.
What does Alexander do with him?
Sends him back to Persia to be tried and executed as a regicide, a kingslayer. Then Alexander pushes even further north into Sogdia, modern Tajikistan, faces fierce local resistance, takes several towns by storm, and right up near the Jaxartes River, he founds Alexandria Eshet.
Istrate, meaning?
The furthest. He believed he'd reached the very edge of the Persian Empire, the limit of the known world in that direction. Beyond lay only the Scythian nomads.
And did he fight the Scythians?
He did. They kept raiding across the river. Alexander lured a large Scythian force into a trap, crushed them in a decisive battle, ended their threat to his northern frontier.
So militarily, he's still unstoppable. But what about his own troops? You mentioned cracks appearing.
Yeah, the discontent was growing. They'd been campaigning for years, thousands of miles from home, endless battles, endless marching. And then Alexander starts adopting Persian customs, wearing Persian dress, introducing Persian court rituals.
How did the Macedonians take that?
Badly. They saw these customs as effeminate, decadent, unbecoming of their king. It created this huge cultural friction, and it led to tragedy.
The Cleitus incident.
Yeah. At Mariconda, modern Samarkand, in 328 BC, there's a feast, heavy drinking, arguments break out. Cleitus the Black, the man who saved Alexander's life at Granicus.
Right.
He criticizes Alexander, maybe mocks his claims of divinity or his preference for Persians. Alexander, in a drunken rage, grabs a spear and kills him.
Kills the man who saved his life.
Yes. Alexander was reportedly devastated afterwards, filled with remorse, but it showed how much the pressure and his changing attitude were affecting him, his temper, his arrogance, alienating his own people.
And he tried to make them bow to him. Proskynesis.
He did. Proskynesis, the Persian custom of prostrating oneself before the king. To Persians, it was a sign of respect. To Greeks, it was something you only did before a god. Blasphemy.
That couldn't have gone down well.
It caused uproar. The Macedonians and Greeks refused. Alexander, surprisingly, had to back down on that one. But the attempt itself showed how far he was drifting from his Macedonian roots, how much he saw himself as an Eastern monarch now.
And there were more plots.
Another one uncovered in Bactria, this time involving some of the royal pages, young sons of nobles serving the king. They were tortured, stoned to death. Even Callisthenes, Aristotle's nephew, Alexander's official historian who had criticized the Proskynesis attempt, was implicated and died in custody. The paranoia continued.
It sounds like things were really tense internally. How did he try to calm the situation in the eastern provinces?
Well, alongside the military campaigns, he used diplomacy and politics. In 327 BC, he made a very strategic marriage.
To Roxana.
Yes, Roxana, the daughter of a powerful Sogdian nobleman whose fortress he had just captured. It was partly political alliance, helping to pacify the region and end the local revolts, allowing him finally to turn his attention south towards India. But yeah, you see him becoming more isolated, more reliant on non-Macedonians, even as he's driven by this relentless urge to reach the literal edge of the world. And this next phase, the push into India, really tested Alexander and his army like never before. New landscapes, new climates, new enemies, including war elephants on a large scale. It pushed his tactical genius to its absolute limits.
So from Central Asia, he heads south.
He prepared to conquer the easternmost provinces of the old Persian Empire, areas in modern Pakistan and India that hadn't yet submitted. This meant crossing the formidable Hindu Kush mountains.
Not an easy journey.
Definitely not. He descended into the Indus River Valley. His army probably advanced in 2 columns, fighting constant skirmishes against local tribes like the Espasi and Essassani, fierce fighting through places like the Swat Valley.
No major sieges?
The siege of Massaga, the Assassinian capital, was particularly tough. There's even a legend about its queen, Cleophas, who supposedly charmed Alexander, bore him a son, and was allowed to keep her throne. Probably just a story, but
Adds to the mystique.
it does. After securing the northern area, he made an alliance with the ruler of Taxila, a major kingdom near modern Islamabad. And together, they marched east to confront the most powerful king in the region, Porus.
At the Hydaspes River. This is famous as Alexander's toughest battle, right?
Absolutely. The Battle of the Hydaspes in 326 BC. It was his costliest battle. Porus was a brave and capable commander, and his army included a large contingent of war elephants.
How did the Macedonians cope with elephants?
With great difficulty, they inflicted terrible casualties. Imagine the psychological impact, the sheer terror and chaos of facing these massive, unfamiliar beasts in battle for the first time. But Alexander, through brilliant tactics, including a risky night crossing of the river during a storm to outflank Porus, eventually won a decisive victory.
Giving him control of the Punjab.
Yes. It showed his genius could adapt even to completely new forms of warfare, but the cost was high.
So even after this incredibly tough battle, Alexander wanted to keep going, further into India.
He did. He had heard tales of the mighty Ganges River, and ancient Greek geographers believed there was a great river, Oceanus, that encircled the world just beyond India. He wanted to reach it, the true edge of the world.
That his